remember thinking I'm just going to kill myself. I can't live with this pain. And I remember this peace, this calmness just kind of wash over me. I wasn't crying anymore, wasn't shaking anymore. I was okay with what was about to happen. And then my phone started going off. She called me like 11 times straight. Strange. I'd never given her my number. She had sent me like 4 or 5 text messages, and it was just like, John, what are you doing? Call me, please. She knew something was wrong. I know for a fact no one from that circle knew where I lived. She was banging on my door in like 3 minutes. I don't know how to explain that. And she couldn't explain it either. It kept me from killing myself that day.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us. It's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson.
Welcome to Powerful Beyond Measure, a podcast about radical transformation, gritty stories, and the undeniable power of second chances. I'm your host, Matt Culp, a man in long-term recovery who believes in the power of grace, grit, and growth. Each week, we sit down with real people who've overcome real struggles, from addiction to adversity. No fluff, no filters, just truth, healing, and hope. And the truth is, you're powerful beyond measure, and it's time you knew it. Today, our guest is John. You'll just kind of introduce yourself and then kind of go from there, and then we will kind of go into your testimony, and then I'll ask you questions, and we'll go from there. I'm glad you're on today.
Thank you for having me. My name's John Brunotte. I'm not from the South. I grew up bouncing in between Illinois and Iowa.
Iowa?
Yeah.
Cornfields?
Yeah. Well, actually, Illinois has more cornfields than any other state in the United States.
I always heard there's just cornfields and meth in Iowa.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Though I didn't really, and I never got into it when I was there. It wasn't until I got out west.
Did you live in, parents live together, married?
My parents, yeah, when I was growing up, until about 10 years old, I guess. Now they had already started fighting when I was, I guess 8 and 9. You know, the struggles in their own marriage had started cracks had started showing their way through. But I was still young enough, and they still tried hard enough, you know, to where I didn't really realize what was going on until I was about 10. And it was I had a good childhood. You know, I can't say that enough. I had, you know, it was still the 80s, you know what I mean? We still had the Sears catalog for Christmas, you know, we still went out, you know, my mom during the summertime, she was like, she had one rule, get the hell out of the house, you know.
During the summer.
During the summer, yeah, you know. Heck, even that tempo continued through the winter. The winter didn't stop us, you know what I mean? When you grow up in the snow, you had snowsuits and boots and mittens and all the stuff that kids here don't have. I like to make the joke sometimes. We had days where the school bus picked us up in the wintertime, and then we had days that we walked because the school bus couldn't make it. You know, um, but I spent my childhood outside, and we built bikes and made forts, and my dad, he owned his own business, and my mother worked for him.
Really?
He was an industrial supplier. He supplied parts. So I grew up with warehouses full of possibilities.
Yeah.
That was, I guess that's probably one of my best memories when I was a kid, because it was like, if you know how kids always want to build something, my dad was always a kind of guy that he always had an answer for everything. It was never because I said so. It was never once because I said so. Well, maybe once or twice, but
Like he had an actual answer.
right, he had
Yeah.
an actual answer, and
Smart guy.
he was he always had an inquisitive mind, and his parents tried to nurture that. My grandmother especially, Teresa Maruzzi. Uh, she was a great person.
You have a brother, sisters?
I have a sister. She's older. She was 7 years older than me. So there was an age gap there. By the time my parents divorced, she was leaving for college.
Yeah, college, yeah.
Yeah.
How did your parents, Italian background, how they end up in Iowa?
My dad's company. So my dad had locations. I think it started out in Bensonhurst, Illinois, near Rock Island. This was before me. But so basically, he supplied specialty parts to companies like John Deere, Nissan, JI Case.
He was buying them and then reselling them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was a middleman,
Yeah.
But he came upon a couple of really, well, at the time was cutting edge stuff. Fasteners that had epoxy already on them, and I'm sure you've seen them. They've got the little blue coating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my dad was one of the first guys to ever do that, and for companies like John Deere that made tractors that rattled all the time,
Yeah.
that was probably their number one problem, was parts falling off, and he solved that for him. So we had my cousin Michael Maruzzi in Chicago, who comes from a lineage of machine men, where and he still to this day has a big machine shop, and so the relationship between him and my dad and my cousin, my cousin could make the parts happen, and my dad was kind of the sales end of it,
Okay.
and things were good, until until my mom left my dad. And he went off the rails quick. My dad had a problem with, and looking back on it, I think he had ADD, because he was once he had mastered something, it was just like on to the next thing.
ADD and good salesmen go together.
Yeah. It worked for him for a long time,
Yeah.
But the downfall to that is that there was very little follow through. There was no, okay, now the pie is made, let's eat it, and he was already baking something else. My mother struggled with that a lot,
You think just the pressure of being married and structure, do you think it held it together better? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, men with women and marriage and kids are more together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the word, but I think that'd be the word. Like they're more, they have somewhere they're going, kind of more purpose, more. So when they like split, it could be like I don't know what to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the way, well, the way things were, you know, the times, um, it was still an era. It was the end of the era of where there was a clear cut perspective of what a family was. You know, there was still. I know it's it's got to be hard for people to really understand what it was like that live didn't live with that, because if you grew up in a digital age, you know
I was kind of surprised that you said your mom worked for your dad with your dad.
yeah.
Yeah, at that time, you know, because that was the end of the start of. I guess women started working in
Yeah, that started in that started,
late '60s.
yeah, the late 60s.
Yeah, but it
And
was like ramped up in the '80s.
yeah, it started hitting high gear
Yeah,
in
but
the
there was
80s.
still families
Mhm.
that modeled traditional family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad, and that's kind of why my dad put his big warehouse in Iowa. You know, he wanted to get me away from Chicago. Um, I had already started exhibiting signs of both what they called hyperintelligence and um, a complete an inability to show guilt. My manipulation force was very strong. I started to understand how to manipulate people, and I can remember the first 4 or 5 years of my life was when I was already, like, those were my strongest impulses. And
Explain an example of high intelligence and low guilt. At any age, it doesn't have to be this age.
yeah, well, I mean, I didn't. I guess your moral compass. Uh, my moral compass was askewed. And if I could rationalize my decision, if it made logical sense, then I could forego any sense of right and wrong. As long as I could perceive that somebody wasn't going to get physically hurt,
Okay.
at least in the beginning, you know what I mean? So, stealing. The first time that I planned my first robbery, I was about 10 years old. So that was 5th grade. So, in your mind's eye, perceive a kid sitting at a bus stop, got his little Spider-Man backpack on, you know what I mean? Just looks like a normal 10-year-old kid. And as you're driving by him, you know, on a busy thoroughfare in the city, and the kid's just, you know, staring off into the distance, you know, like most kids do. But what I had been doing was recording in my mind the actions of people around me, why they did, what they were doing. And this particular day, things had started to gel for me in the overall grand scheme of the operations of a business that were right across from my bus stop. And it had occurred to me months prior that the night watchman in the morning, when I was leaving for school at I guess this would have been about 5:30.
Yeah.
You know, well, he was checking for weak spots in because this building had all kinds of windows and doors, but he never checked all of them. And then it dawned on me that he was only checking the weak ones, the ones that were breachable. And so that thought had come into my bag of knowledge that I could get into that place. And right before I would get picked up and go to school, the manager would show up, and she would, because this was a big operation, they had multiple points of sale, I guess you'd say, a couple of bars, you know, game room, you know, it was probably mobbed up too, you know, it's hard to say. But she would show up with a big old bank bag full of money. I could tell it was full of money because it was swollen, you know. And I had learned through my dad that was a bank bag. It was one of those blue zippered, you know, bags. And she always kept it real close, like it was important. And she would show up, and occasionally I would be there still when the bus was late or something like that. I would be there still when she left. And she never had the bag, so I knew that she left it there for some reason. So these things started to gel in my mind. And I don't remember quite what it was that triggered me to say, I'm going to take it. Or if it was just like I had convinced myself that I wanted to go see, and it became a spur of the moment decision.
Well, it wasn't spur of the moment. You've been obsessing about it, thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I remember being obsessing about it in the sense that it was like I had already devised what I was going to do once I got inside. But I had I had this. I remember from a young age I had a thirst for grown-up things. Thirst for being involved in grown-up situations. I didn't relate very well to my peers. I was not liked, to say the least. In school, I got really good grades up until the 5th grade because it was a smaller school. It was before I went to a real big PS, you know.
If you could identify like a part of you in which wanted to get in the building, I'm going to assume it wasn't profit motive. But if you could identify like what part of you wanted in there, what would it be, you think?
You know, I just remember the smell of when I would walk by the door, because it was very secretive, you know, it was a private club. And I don't mean like dance music club, I mean like back in the old school days.
Yeah, like game room.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of older people hung out there, you know.
Gambling and
Yeah. And they had no front windows, you know, it was just a brick front. And the smell of it, the cigarettes, the alcohol, sound of the music inside, laughter, lots of laughter. Like the place was always full of people having a good time.
Well, you're speaking of curiosity about the place and wanting maybe to feel grown up, but that curiosity just seems to be, how do I get in there to hang out? There's another thing that's happening, which saying I'm getting in there to take the money. Yeah. And like at 10, we're not really looking at like, I'm going to buy a bunch of fucking jelly rolls or whatever. You know? Like it's more of like, I want to be mischievous. I want to be sneaky. That would be the parts that I'm thinking in my head. I want to be. Did you want to get caught?
No,
Did you want to tell anybody?
and as inexpressed by the fact that I didn't tell anybody for probably 2 years.
Okay, so you didn't want to tell anybody. So you wanted to know that you could do something.
I wanted to prove, I guess, to myself that I was better than those that surrounded me. I was better than the kids my age.
Okay.
I was smarter than them. I remember when I was growing up, I often felt like the kids that I knew were not like me.
I felt like that.
You know, they were.
Yeah.
It was hard to put my finger on it because some of them, I guess, were smarter than me technically, but not many.
Well,
And
there's different levels of intelligence versus like the different types of intelligence too. You know,
yeah,
like I might, my IQ might be lower than, okay, in math class in 8th grade, I used to play chess every day.
mm-hmm.
The kid I played with was smarter than me. His IQ was higher than me. But because of who I am, and because of the manipulation, and because of whatever, I would get in his head, and I would win, and it would stress him out bad. And it's not that I'm great at chess; it's that I'm great at manipulating human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm smart enough. My IQ is high enough to not be
To rely solely on it.
correct, but I also know that I can get in this person's head.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same thing in like basketball. I'm not incredibly great at basketball, but I'm good enough that I can get in your head, and I know what I'm good at, so I can manipulate those two things, and I can win money playing basketball not because I'm tall, not because I'm super athletic. It's because of I know how to manipulate myself in them. So like I'm not gonna make stupid decisions because I'm 5'8", 5'9". You know, I'm not gonna go down in the lane. You know, I'm gonna use the things that I can use in life. I think that I never got involved in like, I mean, that's a crazy story, you know, just to be sitting there thinking about, but I was involved in that age, and which I'm a little bit younger than you, but I was selling items at school illegally, you know,
Yeah.
some of them illegal, some of them not illegal, but not supposed to be at school. And I would use
Started out with chocolate and stuff like that.
then
Yeah,
pencils and gel pens. And then I would go to the health department and get condoms for free because I knew older kids. I would get them on the weekend, and I would sell them to kids that think they're cool because I would know that they think I need a condom, and you're in the 5th grade, you're not even using the condom.
Identifying the weakness.
Correct. And I would sell them to them for $5, sometimes $20 for free condoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would use like somebody's locker that was like a nerdy kid because I knew how to manipulate the situation because I was cool with them.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool like all around, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I was well liked only because it was transactional for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I mean, some of my relationships were genuine. You know, I have like best friends and whatever, but a lot of it became transactional for me.
Sure.
Yeah, so I can kind of understand. But if I had to like pinpoint like what is it in me, like what part of me, I don't know. I would have to really think about like why.
I don't know. I can name the triggers more than I can name what it was that responded to the trigger.
Okay.
You know, the triggers for me were what I perceived to be was lack. That I wanted more out of life and saw no reason I shouldn't have it.
Okay.
And logically, you know, because I was, especially when I was young, my logic was through the lenses of somebody that didn't have a lot of experience. outside of what I had from books. I only could perceive what I saw in the streets. And that didn't make me want to become sociopathic with it. You know, I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't like, I wasn't indifferent to other people's suffering. I think I identified, even when I, later on in years, when I became a much bigger criminal than I ever cared to.
Wanted to be.
Yeah, than I ever cared to want to be, for sure. I did not have that trait that makes big criminals good at what they do. If you care,
I don't know.
yeah, that's not going to work out for you. You know, and so that never left me. And as I got older, I decided that it was not a good thing to have a lack of empathy. So if I was causing suffering in the world, then I was going to suffer, and that was just all there was to it. You know, I accepted that. I accepted that pain.
You think that the acknowledgement of not having a lack of empathy had something to do with suffering you went through? Like, okay, well, I went through this, so like now I can see, well, that actually hurts people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you actually experience pain yourself.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
up until we're 10, like you said, we're outside. You're just living life. You know, your parents started divorce when you were 10. My parents divorced when I was 7 or 8. That would be the first pain which I endured, you know.
Sure.
So by the time I was in 5th grade or whatever, that's when I started, you know. But I don't know. Empathy for me has been something that is a learned behavior. So it sounds like something for you, not necessarily something pure, like given to you. Like,
Sure.
yeah, it's something that you have to go, oh.
It was compiled, I guess. It was a recorded, it was a transaction, you know, something that was done to me, and I responded emotionally, and then, or something I failed to do for someone else, failed to be there for them, you know. I can see that in my romantic relationships going through my life. It seems like every relationship that I had that I screwed up, or at least I'll take ownership, my 51% of it, you know.
51%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I consider my side of the street, 51%.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I had 3 great relationships in my life. 3 amazing women in my life, that took up 20-something years.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all born on May 13th. Crazy.
That's weird.
Weird. And
That is super weird.
yeah, I know. I've tried to.
Did you know?
No,
I mean, you knew when you started, after you started dating them.
Yeah, after I started dating them, and one of them I had gotten very serious with, and I guess it just had never come up. It was a year or so that I didn't know her birthday. And then she just told me, you know, this was the last one. It's May 13th. I said, and she was the one that I ended up having a son with. You know, I really.
Do you think that the romantic relationships taught you empathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think me too.
Yeah.
Not. Yeah. In both ways, directly and indirectly. Them needing things from me understanding that I'm not attuned in the moment.
Right.
Go, oh, there's another person here.
There's layers to it.
Yeah,
you know
and then there's also like looking at this person going, this is a lot of me. Because for me, myself, same thing, 20 years, relationships, 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
But like looking across the room going, this person came here with their shit and their trauma and they're fucked up, and I want to be like there for them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I failed at all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because of that, but I don't think that I lack any empathy now. But
you still have to learn how to translate that into action.
sure, with
Because-
with each individual, because
Right.
yeah, of how they accept that stuff.
Yeah. You can't enable. You know
Sure.
what I mean? And
My common MO is that I will be safe, I will be secure, I will be strong and stable. And over time, you will see that I've been here unconditionally for you, and then that will change your heart and your traumas. And, but it's not an effective, whatever. I mean, maybe it hasn't hit the right thing, the person yet, but like that's an ineffective model for me. I don't know. It seems like a great model, but what happens is I end up not being reciprocated through that process.
well, and there's the thing that I think I often forgot was the fact that they have a journey too.
Yeah.
You know, and you may not be the end
of the journey.
of that journey. You know.
Yeah. There's this show, Landman.
Oh, I love it.
It's great.
Oh, it's a great show, man.
But it's kind of him and his ex-wife have a toxic relationship, and I kind of have the same situation going on.
Yeah.
But he's talking to his daughter in the first season. She brings her boyfriend home, and she says, "Can we sleep on the couch together?" And he says, "Yeah, as long as we won't touch, we won't do anything." So she goes out there to hang out with her boyfriend and sleep on the couch, and the boyfriend's like, "No, I'm trying to." And then before she went out there, the dad, Billy Bob Thornton, was talking to her, and he's like, "He's not the one. He's just the one right now." And like, nobody's the one until it's the last one. He's just, and you won't know until it's the last one, And then she comes back to the room after that happened, and she goes, he's not the last one, But I mean, I think it's okay. It's common. And like, you shouldn't be jaded around the deal. Like, just because it's not the last one doesn't mean you're not there for a reason,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like not, I don't know. Some people are like jaded with love or whatever. I'm not jaded like that.
Expectations. You know.
Okay. Yeah, that's expectations.
That's expectations. It's.
I don't want to let it go.
Right.
But I also like know when it's over, I'm going to be okay. They're going to be okay. And I'll find another one. Wow.
Well, and it's. I think at least me personally, I discovered something that helps. You have to have a clear image of where it is you stand and how far and what it is you're trying to say with your actions. And if your statement is, we've crossed a line, this is no longer fair or balanced, then you're being able to express that to the other person. They may not get it right away. And Lord knows, there have been, there have been women in my life that have tried to do just that, make a statement to me that I did not see what they were saying, because it wasn't in words, because you're not really listening to words. You're interpreting their actions. Sometimes that means that they will interpret your actions soon enough and make a decision based on that. Because words are full of emotion, and emotion can be misinterpreted. And
so can actions.
Well, true, but in hindsight, when the emotion fades, the action becomes clearer.
Sure. You usually don't get. Actions are definitely have more weight for sure.
Yeah.
They're heavier judged. They're harder evaluated, and like they're easier understood. Because like most people that are communicating in that arena that are communicating through words is like whatever they're saying really isn't what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that in love in general, there's a negotiation within self and that person, and like what you're willing to give and not give, and like as long as both parties in a real life world, like in a dream, nobody negotiates for nothing. We're perfect together, and I don't have to negotiate, and I don't have to change anything about myself. But that's not real in love. Is risk and negotiation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like I think where like boundaries come in is like, am I willing to continue to negotiate further and further?
Mm-hmm.
Is this person also negotiating, you know? Now, like it shouldn't be tit for tat.
Mm-hmm.
People change, and like they're on their journey, I'm on my journey. So like understanding that if they're on their journey and that changes and ebbs and flows, I'm probably going to have to negotiate with myself in general at all times. But is it something forced on me? Like you have to do this, or yeah, that's a different situation.
It makes it easier when you're able to identify what it is that you really need out of a person. Something that really lifts you up, you know. When you can identify that in the first few days, you know, if you can extrapolate that into an expression, and be able to communicate with that person before you even begin a relationship. Like the last person that I had before the woman that I'm with currently, who was not born on May 13th, actually.
Okay.
The mother of my son, Candy. I learned what it was like to be honest with her. Those are the lesson of honesty was what I got from that relationship. What it means to when you are honest and what it means when you stop being honest. When we started our relationship, it was never supposed to be. She was the niece of my business partner, who was older than me. So he's like 15 years older than I was. And his niece was 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
I was 34 when I met her, or actually got in a relationship with her. And she was there. Little backstory. At the time, I had just come back out on the road. I had been away from the business for a while. In my 20s, I owned a food concessions business, and we did festivals. And he was my business partner at that point in time. And when I was 31, I tore my foot off on a motorcycle. And we were right on the cusp of really, really hitting it big. You know, like we had made the company had been in business, I think, 8 years at that point. And we made our revenue stream was like $430,000 that year. PepsiCo was looking at us. We had one of our booths was a handmade soda booth. And, you know, we had some real winners in flavors, all of which have been copied by Mountain Dew. I just would like to say that. Anyway.
You didn't own them, buddy.
Yeah, they were. Well, listen, we did a show called Norman. It was the Norman Renaissance Festival, and the PepsiCo Research and Development Department is in Norman, Oklahoma. And they owned this show. Mm-hmm. We got in through some backdoor clause. We paid some guys, you know, We bribed our way into there. And so they had 11 booths at this one festival. They gave us one. In 3 days, we sold, it was like 3,200 gallons of just our sarsaparilla. We made over $140,000 in soda in 3 days. We just stomped them. And the next year, they, like, PepsiCo was watching. I promise you. They watched us for the next 3 years before they got us out of there. And they had approached us, like, you know, we would like you to come down and show you around, blah, 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 a little invite. And that was the year, like, and things started getting off the rails for me, you know, because I just got this huge head. So anyway, back to the story. I was, sorry, I got sidetracked there. Back to the story. We were in, I just came out to see Mike. You know, I just wanted a little test. I was finally out of the wheelchair. I was getting around. I had just ended a relationship, and I needed something to lift me up, you know. And Mike, we were still on good terms, you know. And I was talking to him. He's like, "Hey, man, come out on the road, dude. It's the end of the year." He said, "We're gonna be out in Great Lakes. I've rented a couple of cabins up there on the lake. Come do some fishing, you know, hang out, man." He's like, "I'm gonna be leaving, but Candace is gonna be there running a crew. You know, you'll stay with her up in a cabin." And Candace had always hated me. Like, I didn't know she was working for him, but I knew her as Mike's niece, you know. And she was a lesbian. So, I mean, there was none of that was expected at all. And so I was like, all right, whatever. You know, he's like, yeah, she's cool, man. You know, she's lightened up a lot. She used to be a real angry high schooler, you know what I mean? And so now she was 28. So long story short, she was going through something. I was going through something. The cabin had a big old fireplace. You know, it was cold and blustery outside. I'm a good cook. You know, at the time I was huge drinker. And so the first thing I did was stop the place full of food, full of liquor. You know, I was going to make it, you know, I was going to be there for a week or two. I didn't really know yet. I had no plans. And she proceeded to, the thing I loved about her was that she was so real, so honest. She had no fear of how anyone was going to judge her, because I guess she'd been judged her whole life, you know. And God, I envied that. I envied just her.
There's a certain amount of freedom that it takes to just move into a space of I'm other sexually, like whatever. Yeah, you have to like go through a rite of passage kind of. Yeah. So definitely like frees you of people's opinions of you.
Yeah, that's and I had been for the previous. God, it just seemed like all my life I was being judged, and I had to, and I took that on as a burden. I took that on as baggage, you know, and I felt like I'd been living my whole life to prove to others that I was valuable, I guess.
Good enough.
And so we spent 2 weeks eating and drinking and watching the snow fly out the window in front of a crackling fire, and walking on the boardwalk. They have an old school boardwalk there in Geneva on the Lake in Ohio, right off of Lake Erie. And I mean old school, like, you know, it's like straight out of 1961. You know what I mean? You expect to see greasers walking down the street. You know, it's old school, nostalgic. And I'm into that kind of stuff. I'm a history buff, and I just started being honest with her, and she didn't
Care.
care, and that was I'd never experienced anything like that. So, in as much the thing that I try to do today, the thing that I took from that relationship was the value of honesty. Because that the contrast between the way that relationship started and the way it ended was a chasm of undescribable proportion. There aren't words in the English language that accurately provide a visual image to the emotional space there.
There are like people in the world that naturally can catch other people in their honesty, in their whole vulnerable state, more than others. Also, there is something to just be said as just in general, people we don't know or we first meet, there's nothing on the line. You're either going to walk away from this or not,
True, but it
also depends on, does this person at a later date use what I told him against me? Yeah.
Right. Well, you see,
that's where it starts to get rocky and iffy, and that's where we start to go, well, should I be? Should I? Not that I already know I shouldn't have told him that because now they're using it against me, but should I tell him? And that's where, like, having unconditional love, vulnerability, and pure, like, love come into play. Can I be completely myself and they're still going to be there to catch me no matter what? It's very hard to find.
Yeah, I think probably the key to that door was the fact that she was already, I could tell she was sharing with me things that, because she was who she was able to not be afraid of, or not have that inner dialogue that prevents you from being truly honest with somebody.
Was there a later space in the relationship where the stuff was used against you, or did you just start becoming dishonest?
I just started becoming dishonest.
Because of?
Fear.
Fear of her judging you. Fear of her not accepting you.
Fear of failure, I think.
On your own.
Yeah. Like things were great with us for a long time. Like we used to set just random dates, and it's like, we're going to do something crazy here and just like pull things out of a hat. Like we had a set date one for a while, for like a year, where every other Wednesday we would go to whatever park. We would just pick a park, go there with 2 bottles of Chardonnay, and drink in the park on a blanket and write country music.
Okay.
Every single time. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Matthew McConaughey does in movies, man. I mean, it's
I understand.
That does people, but that took us out of whatever it was that we had going on, and created
It's fine.
Created a bubble of unique us experience, and what happened was I had a cancer scare. My son was born I was I had a cancer scare that fall. And the surgeons, it was, they thought it was colon cancer, right? Or gastrointestinal carcinoma. And so there's only one solution to that, right? They bisect your colon, right? And you get a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. And it was like, I had no internal defense. My intestinal fortitude was not, I did not have any discipline in my life to be able to
navigate.
Navigate that. And so at the time, I was a mortgage underwriter for Bank of America, and I should have been at the beginning to crescend into the peak of what should have been a really good life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, all of my worst reactionary habits just came flooding back all at once.
Because of
Fear. And what I had, and the worst of those habits was my ability to manipulate, and the problem in that lied in the fact that I was manipulating myself,
mm-hmm.
and into believing I was doing that. My actions after that point were at the worst fixable, at the best for the family. So
did you know you were manipulating yourself? Did you know
I didn't.
Did you know you were negotiating with yourself?
I had never done. I mean, the kind of work we do in recovery on ourselves
is something you never thought about.
90% of the people in this world don't
even know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I see it every single day with people that have fairly normal lives, and don't have any serious addiction problems, so to speak. Suffer from rampant mental dysfunction that recovery program would absolutely work with.
Well, there's also a blessing and a curse to that idea, concept, whatever, which is awareness can also cause. There's usually, it could be long term, but there's usually a short term awareness situation which could cause negative effects upon your life. So being aware of problems, which is what we're doing in recovery, we're going, oh, that's a problem. I gotta take that to God. I gotta fix that. I gotta work on that. But think of like I don't want to pick on Pulaski, but like think of a redneck from Pulaski. I mean, he just he doesn't know any better. He works at a factory and like nothing's worse. And, he's just like he could get cancer.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, he could get cancer. His wife could leave the dog and glad the dog's here. He just aware, but somebody that's like more new age goes to therapy, more aware of self, could be more of suffering, because neuroticism in itself is like,
it opens a window to the knowledge that it's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is sometimes I think people in recovery can get stuck in that neuroticism.
Yeah.
And identify with the problem instead of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
You can get stuck in that window.
Yeah.
Which is what I think happens to a lot of people in and out of recovery a lot. I'm an addict. I'm an addict. And then over time they've learned, they have to do that over and over until they figure out I'm an addict, but there's a solution. They lean on it a lot. They could.
Yeah.
I have depression, so I'm not going to work today.
Mm-hmm.
I have anxiety. I couldn't go downtown. I couldn't speak in front of these people.
Letting themselves be the victim.
Yes, of themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never saw.
But being in in your state, you don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
You're
at that moment in time, I just felt the emotional response of it. And
were people aware around you?
Oh yeah.
People were, hey, what's going on?
Yeah,
What
like
are you
I went
doing?
from. I mean, you look at the photos of me in 2015, and I've got you know I look like $1,000,000. You know what I mean? I
Right.
got a huge smile on my face. Everything is great. Always in a tie and a shirt. Always. Um, Pictures of me with my son. You can see the look on my face. I'm as healthy spiritually at that moment and emotionally as I've ever been in my life. I loved Candy. I loved her. I still love her. And when I can reflect now, and sometimes I have bad dreams about it, moments in time that I had shut out because they were just too much for me to really carry around. Excuse me. Um, when she left me, I was oblivious that she was leaving. Like
Not of why, but like you didn't know it was coming.
yeah, I didn't,
Or did you not know why?
I didn't know. Like I think I may have just like hysterical blindness. You know what I mean? Because now that I remember the facts and I'm sober and clean and those things come back to me, it's like, how could you not see? How I was using at the time I had just finally ended a long-term relationship with cocaine, right? At the time my son was born. And so I went up through a period of where I was only drinking. And when I compare that to,
Did she know about the cocaine?
um, yes, ish. I don't think she knew,
The extent.
yeah, how long I'd been using it. Like I came back from South America. Some people they say they got a monkey on their back. Man, I had a silverback gorilla, dude. I mean, you just don't come away from that. And there have been points in time in my life where I smoked crack cocaine with a propane torch and a water bong. I had used I could use a half an ounce to an ounce in a single night, um, but I was making so much money at that point in time that
Yeah, it's really hard to see when that's happening.
you can use it. Cocaine's a weird substance. Like you can, until you reach a point of complete obsession, you can function highly on it. It almost drives you to work harder to hide what you are. Where methamphetamine,
You lose it.
you lose it. Like you want to be on it 24 hours a day. You don't want to get off of it.
Take the car, take the house.
Yeah,
I'm.
I'll walk. I'll give me a bike, and I mean
Yeah.
strap what I need on my back, and
It's just it takes you. It's quick.
yeah, your happiness highway runs strong on that drug.
When I got on meth, I came off heroin, and the first time I had ever did it, I stayed up 5 days. I took a break, probably did some heroin. I was going on and off heroin and meth, but probably in 6 weeks, I had committed 5 felonies, and I don't think I got bailed out of jail, but maybe I got bailed out. I don't remember. Yeah, Samantha bailed me out. But when I left, I never went home. I had sold the mud truck, the car. I didn't even go back to get the laundry or nothing. Everything was, that became my MO for the next 5 years. I would get sober, build it up, because I'm really good at like getting the things I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a good talker. I exude some confidence. So like I can get a good job, and like I can get it, and then you give me fucking 5 weeks, and I'll get a house and a girl, and boom, I'm gone. Shit's in the car, and I would just do it every time. Nothing created, but people could drink for 20 years. And it doesn't.
Things work until they don't.
Dude, meth. I don't know if it. I mean, it does that to everybody. I mean, the first time I'd ever done it, in that 6-week period, I'd end up in this trap house, and everybody there was in the same situation as me. They had gave up everything. They had no home.
Mm-hmm.
They were all living like that. We were all cooking dope and yeah.
A meth trap house is always that way too.
It is. You have different people there, like different archetypes, but they're all the same.
They've all put themselves in a position where they can't exist outside of like a communal meth community.
Yeah.
Like they can't function in any platform, in any environment outside of that.
Yeah.
We travel by night,
There might be one person in every, now that I'm thinking about it, in every, like, somebody is holding the house together. Like, they have a job they go to. Their husband or their wife or their boyfriend, they're the house. But they, like, might work at a bank or, like, yeah.
There's a lone anchor.
Yes.
That enables that environment to grow.
And they don't really do it like everybody. They do it, but not.
They tend to only do lines too. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Where they'll snort a little bit, and I think that may be how the drug metabolizes in your system. There's an effect to that, a long-term effect.
Well, they said, I watched this podcast thing, a little clip, but it makes sense of like that. In the 80s, late 80s, people started smoking meth and not shooting. Glass came along. They were able to start smoking it. They figured out how to smoke it. And then that became the increasing rate of people doing speed and meth was just jacked up through the roof. Yeah, because people would chase it.
Yeah.
Which is how I first started doing it, was smoking it. I mean, I think the first time I snorted it and then immediately went to smoking it. But like it makes you chase it. Like versus, in early 80s truck drivers and people that did speed, they took pills and they might have snorted it, but they like snort one line, stay up 3 days, like it wasn't something you'd chase,
Yeah. I remember when I first started using it when I was in the end of high school.
Oh, so you had tried it before you were 35.
Yeah, but it was a different drug then. It was, at that time, it was made with propanol, PHP.
Yeah.
And this was out west.
It's cleaner.
Yeah. And it was more akin to a pharmaceutical version of it. And we would do, like, I started going to these raves out in Denver, Colorado. I had been to a couple in Chicago when I was younger. And so that's why somebody said a rave, and I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll go. And everybody was on it there. But nobody smoked it. Like, I don't even know that stuff was smokable.
Smokable, yeah.
And so you would just do like these little tiny lines, and you would, dance and, get naked with some girls or whatever,
That also is like social, like, we just explained how every big town, small town meth people operate.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was currently operatable in a different standpoint, people maybe would react in a certain way, because tribalism and like how people, like.
Yeah, we're all looking to be accepted somewhere,
And that is kind of what happens in those trap houses. It's like,
yeah,
I found my place, kind of.
Yeah.
The dirty of the dirty. But like,
as long as you're not alone.
There's always different people there. It's weird. You got like the dude in the bathroom, he's picking his face. He ain't stopped in 3 days. And you got the dude, like, I would always find these people, they would like color for like, draw tattoos, like, to be on the floor. Like there's always like.
Hypnotic psychosis.
A lot of people don't believe this part, but I was like the which I guess in general, like I'm real quiet and stoic in general, but like if you put me in a crowd, even in school before meth, I was a class clown. So when I did meth, that's where I went to. Like I would just talk for 8 hours
I can
straight.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. But I'm so quiet now. Like in my, I'm so,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, in a crowd, it's weird because I can go home and that's where I recharge. I like quiet. I like quiet, cerebral space. But if you put me in a room full of people, it energizes me.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same way.
Now I got to go home and like, I will be energized after I leave.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, damn.
I have to, when I get home from work, I have to sit in my truck and I just
sit there.
Just sit there.
Yeah, me too.
I mean? I might respond to an email or something like that, but I won't have my phone on. I'll just listen to the quiet inside of my vehicle. I can't go from one.
Task shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ADHD problems, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the ADHD bad.
My problem is like it took me a long time to understand. Like I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was young, but I don't think you should really diagnose any boy, especially at that early age, because you just don't know who. Because once I hit puberty, I did like it happens a lot. When men hit puberty, they like.
Well, they don't diagnose. It's not ADHD anymore. I recently read a book written by the consortium of psychologists that in England that originally diagnosed ADD back in the 70s and had reassigned the diagnosis in the 90s to ADHD. Well, they've removed the H in it. It's either ADD with hyperactivity or without hyperactivity, because
so mine would be without.
As they point out, it's often when ADD becomes the biggest struggle for most people is when they're young. So you have to, what they were misdiagnosing was that it was causing some form of hyperactivity, but it's not. That's just
you're
children.
young.
Yeah, you're young. Some children are more hyperactive than others.
Mine is like there's a guy named Dr. Amen, which he is published, but it's not a secure thing. On DSM, there's like maybe 3. At the current time, there's 3 forms of ADHD. Dr. Amen, he does like these brain. He monitors your brain to see how someone shows up, and he's able to like. They're trying to like map out ADHD and other stuff. But when I went through like some of his literature, I was like, oh, so there's like some people that have like ring of fire ADHD, which is something different. That's not what I have, but like mine is like, it's great on paper, but like if you wanted to remodel this room and me and you were here, which me and you might work well together, I feel like we would, but like, I'm not stopping until this room is done. I also like naturally understand exactly what we're going to need to do it. I know what we're going to run into failure wise. I know like mistakes, and I know the supplies we're going to need within minutes. But one of the biggest problems for me is I would make people uncomfortable because I can't let it go. So at 6 p.m. when you want to go home, or at lunch when you're like, hey, it's lunchtime, I'm like, well, you can go eat, but I'm still going to be here. Like I don't process done until we're done. And then it's really hard for me to task shift, like getting in your truck and being in your driveway and go, I'm still at work, like mentally, which it's been hard for me to identify, like, because I have a family. Like I can't pull in the driveway because my family wants me to be family man, but I'm at work still. So it's really hard for me to shift.
And you don't want them to appear selfish.
Correct. Yeah. Cause you appear unattuned when you pull in the driveway. Say like your job is like, my job has a lot to do on the phone. So I pull in the driveway and I'm on the phone, and my kid pulls up, or I pull up, and then they're at the window and I go, hold on. So that's immediate rejection, unattunement, so I have to be like very aware of like where I'm at in life.
That's a struggle.
It is. It's a struggle for people in general, but
Sure.
I
I
think
haven't ever had to. I've never had to have one of those positions that kind of saddled both where you're in a reality space, but your attention is somewhere else, and so you have to deal with someone here, and then you're dealing with somebody on the phone. And I know how I react to that. It can be difficult sometimes.
your job at mortgage is that what you were doing?
Yeah, Bank of America.
But you were able to like
Yeah, I worked in a corporate office.
You left it there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
left it there.
Business owners struggle with what I struggle with a lot because, which I've became incredibly great at over. It's took me about 3-4 years to unwind, but in the past year, I became really good at like. I became more effective at my job by taking care of myself and my family better.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm on,
you can be 100% on.
I'm 100% on both areas, and I can like switch. But it took me a long time to understand because I also like I built the company in which I know and trust the people around me.
Sure.
But that also takes time too.
Yeah.
But for years it was just me. I'm collecting money. I'm doing this. I'm on the phone. I'm doing case management. I'm doing it all. That's a different space than.
I had a conversation with a mutual friend just 2 nights ago, and we were extrapolating.
I like that word.
Yeah. We were extrapolating, or I was for him, to maybe try to help him better understand
what he's doing.
But moreover, the structure you've built around you and why. And the point of loyalty, to me, that's very obvious. Especially in a business in its infancy, so much can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you can work around having to learn a new task or teaching somebody a new task or something like that. But if they're not fundamentally loyal to the company,
sure,
then you are in a world of dangerous waters.
I just had a thought of, me and that person were talking last night, but he was like, just so you know, like you're in a business where like landlords don't have to help their people get jobs. It's a weird thing, and he was asking me like what expectations were, but I was just thinking when you said that when I had the early stages, when I had 5-6 houses and it was just me and I did case management and I did all the house meetings and I did, there's some things that's been better without me. Some things were worse. Some things I've been able to solve because I'm like further away and I go, oh, that's a problem. Let's solve this. Than just doing it.
Difference between a leader and a manager.
Correct. Yes. I've read a lot of books around stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just had 2 people leave that have been with me 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, Nick had an idea for me and I'm probably going to do it. I think it's good to understand like, he's went through his transition, but understand like what would be good for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't like build in a part of relationships with those people throughout the process, in 10 years I could end up in a place where nobody around me is loyal, and I don't want to be there,
we look at the house and why our house
is great.
And Nick, Nick has always been a big part of that, but he never really saw why he was, and it's like, all right, I said, have you ever worked in a corporate environment where it's really just clicking, man? You walk into the floor the first day, whether it's in sales or whatnot. He's like, yeah, of course, I worked at Aflac. It was great.
What do you think it is?
And
I have
I was like, it's the tempo.
tempo.
If you set a tempo, if you walk into an environment where you're unsure of how you're supposed to behave, or you're getting mixed signals from those around you,
Yeah.
you have a much higher probability of making your own call on that.
I think it's the tempo, but I think it's when you said mixed signals, Nick Saban says this thing about high performers, high achievers, and people that don't achieve. And if they don't get along.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody here is not sold on the same dream, it will never work. And I think that's what it is. Everybody's headed to the same mission. And I've seen successful houses, and I can feel it in my soul, like that I know it's great there,
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's great here. I know it's great here. And like, what is it that's making these things great, And like, I think what I've learned is that for management and in general, the house is like the people that are doing well. It took me a long time to understand this. The people that are doing well are the people I need to focus on. If 7 people in a house are all family and 2 come in and they're not, like, I don't want to, sure, we're going to help them. We're going to do what we're supposed to do. But they're either going to jump on the boat or they're going to get off the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be with the 7 people, and I want to live in that vivacious, energetic space.
Yeah.
I don't want to chase this one person.
Yeah.
This person needs to get on with us. And I used to chase the one person. And until I swapped, that's when it became super successful.
I can see that. Both me and him have gone out of our way to show love to everyone that's come in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I try to, more than anything these days, I try to walk with the idea that I've got really only one commandment in this world, and that's just to show love, And so I tried to give them some words of wisdom when they want it, and if you show them love 9 times out of 10, even if they're not going to make it, they're still going to
remember that part.
Remember that, and I know that they're not all going to make it, but I do know that this is just one step in their journey too, and that doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and die, and I have to I pour into them when I can to help them find their way.
Yeah.
And
I think overall, like, the program Threshold has been like what I want it to be is like, I think what changed Threshold in general was I got a part of this program, this certification situation. It's a state thing, but it's it's called NAR.
Yeah.
And they started to explain to me what social model was. And this lady that I know, she just passed this last year. She had been doing it for 30 years. And we would get in arguments and debates and like how this works, And I mean, they were all usually friends. Sometimes when we were first going through my standards, I'm like, dude, just tell me what to write on the piece of paper. And she's like, I can't. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, it's yours, But she would explain things to me like, if you, these people are in desperate situations. They don't have nowhere to go. So if you're punitive and you make them wash the dishes, they'll wash the dishes because they have nowhere to go. But once you offend that person, they'll never get anything from you again. You're also not in control. God's in control. It's just like AA, you know? Does your sponsor tell you what to do? No, I abide to, he has a solution in which I'm going to listen to his suggestions, but he's not making me do anything.
Mm-hmm.
He has about 5% gauge over like my life, of whether it's going in a successful manner or not. I'm submitting to that idea. So like our job as a house is to create like safe and structured standards in which to live by. Everybody's moving in this direction. These people are making choices whether they want to be here or not. It's not a punitive and authoritarian thing. And
Yeah.
the more I adhered to that, when I first heard it, I thought, that seems soft. It seems fluffy. It seems like rehab stuff. I don't really want. But the more I let go, the better it got, because I'm not God. But it is my job to create safe housing and standards, and everything else God has control over.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that, it sounds crazy, but like,
not to me.
I just want to be a part of, I just want to be a witness to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in control of 2931. That's what's going on there. Y'all, that's your home. And the more it's my home, it's less your home. So how do I do that? Well, I give y'all, what's the word? Not accountability, but I give y'all like say so. I give you authority over the home. Pretty much, it's yours. It's not mine. It's God's, but it's yours. You know. And the more decisions y'all make within yourself, the more it's yours. I talked to a friend that he came through a faith-based program, and then he ran a faith-based program. And we were talking about this because a lot of faith-based programs are punitive. It's really weird that they are, because faith and grace and like, but they seem to be beating it out of them in so many words, not like physically sometimes, but like, so I said, hey, I need you to tell me your story. We were kind of like debating the thing, you know, tell me your story in 3 minutes. So we're sitting at Koji on Memorial, and he's telling me, and the whole time I'm like counting, how many times does he say I? It was like 35 times, you know? And it happens all over the world. People go to the podium and they say, I clawed, I scraped, I pulled myself out with the help of 12-step program, with the help of God, but I did it. If a program takes that away from the individual, it's not theirs and they don't own it, which means when you leave, it's mine and you don't own it, and it's never going to be yours. And what are you going to do when you leave? Like, the things that you instill in yourself that are yours and you own, you carry with you. But like a program that's authoritarian and punitive, it's theirs. Did you learn how to manage your money? No, we managed it for you. Did you learn how to hold yourself accountable? No, we did that for you. Did you learn how to set up your bank account? No, we did that for you too. You know, did you learn how to get a job? No, we did that for you too. Like in those situations, I find that
I think it's difficult, man. I think you're doing a really good job. I just want to say that, like, and I know that Nick really believes in your program. But moreover, he believes in you as a guiding force in that. I think there is a place for treatment, that it's necessary to, because you've lost your will.
For sure.
You know?
Like separation from drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol and trauma and like trauma-induced therapy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. You have to find whoever you are again, you know, because I don't recognize the guy that I had become. Like, it seems like I stopped living when Candy. So when she left me, to bring this full circle, when she left me, so we had this romantic relationship for 6 years, and And when get me on a romantic stroke, dude. I mean, I made her anniversary gifts, sculptures, and really cool stuff. We traveled, photographs. I used to leave her little tiny notes everywhere. And when I came in from Tampa, I had just gone to Tampa, quote unquote, on a business trip. I was there to buy meth. I came back and the whole house was empty. She was gone. My son was gone. In the middle of the living room was a pile of items. And at first I thought it was just trash. When you move out, you just, trash, whatever. I remember so clearly walking across that floor, how quiet it felt in there. And as I got closer to it, I realized that it was everything I had ever given her. It was everything. It was every memory. And that she was not leaving me. She was deleting the fact that I had ever been in her life. That was powerful, man.
Heavy.
And it cut me so deep that I think on some level, amphetamines, they allow you to forget. They allow you to... I think the most dangerous thing about them is that you don't have to feel pain.
Yeah, I don't think they allow you to forget. They allow you to walk through shit without any remorse, thought.
Right. So, but the most dangerous part about that is that you no longer feel hope or joy or love.
Yeah.
And and naturally, like I wallowed. I mean, just tears just started pouring out of me, man. And I realized what I'd done. And I couldn't live with it. I just couldn't face it. She didn't. There was no forwarding address. There was no. There was no call me. There. It was just gone, and it took me over a year to find him. And by the time that happened, I was a wreck. I may have turned into something that was, by all judgment, hopeless and destructive. But I've really, really, on a level that I never thought was possible. I didn't know love could get that good. I didn't know that I don't know that I've ever met someone that actually got to taste a relationship like that. And I took it for granted. And well, I don't know that I took it for granted. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and say I did. But the fear inside of me, the inability, the child inside of me that never came to terms with failure, that never found a deeper understanding of value, just overrode it. And in a lot of ways, I turned into the 16-year-old me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for the last 10 years of my life, And that's what I've been. 8 years, I guess. It hasn't been 10 years. But in that 8 years, I became somebody that I never thought I would be. I've crossed every possible line of decency that I could have ever expected out of myself. And I've carried the baggage of that.
8 years is a long time on meth, buddy.
Yeah.
Straight.
Yeah.
Sure, you lost the job and all the stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I left Florida.
Oh, okay. You were in Florida.
Yeah.
You drove to Tampa, just a different city. Mm-hmm. I thought you were here.
No, I was in Orlando.
Okay, you were in Orlando. You drove to Tampa, 60 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened, at that day? Super traumatic. Stuff on the floor. What happened right after? You went to Tampa to get drugs.
Yeah.
To sell?
No. I was just at that time. I was just a user.
Okay.
I had started a little side business building hot rods, little street cars. You know what I mean? Out of Acuras that I had found a little niche market for, and so between the bank and that, I had I was working 20 hours a day. And
how long were you in Orlando? What years were you in Orlando?
I was in Orlando from 2010.
Okay.
2010 to 2015, 16.
Okay. That's where my baby mom's from, Orlando. Winter Garden.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Just southwest side.
Yeah, trailer park stuff.
Oh yeah. I lived in Wekiva Springs when things were real good, and then ended up in Sanford.
Okay.
And so there I am on the floor for, I think, 2 days. And
going through this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I was just eating my guilt. You know what I mean? And I remember saying, you deserve this. And realizing I could not, I didn't believe that I could carry on owning that. And because it became clearer and clearer how much I didn't make her angry as much as I had lifted her up out of a place where she had given up on life and came along and was everything that she ever hoped in a partner. Someone that never judged her, never thought anything other than love towards her, and brought her to a place that she actually believed in bringing a child into this world, which she was totally against. And walked through that door and took all of that away.
Was it the drugs?
It was...
Was it self-destruction?
I don't know. I can't delineate what it was in terms of what part of my dissolution. Which place took more proprietary ownership of it.
Yeah.
But I know that my fear led me to manic behavior. And unfortunately, like my ADD just went into overdrive. And I was talking to a guy that I bought automotive parts from, and he had a performance shop, and he could tell I was, he was like, well, hey man, try this, and I remembered the stuff from way back in the day, you know what I mean? And to me, I just tried a little bit, and it was just like everything in my mind sorted out. Like I no longer had these racing thoughts. It was just like, I no longer wanted cocaine. I no longer wanted alcohol. I didn't see that I no longer wanted anything else either. I just was trying to get rid of what I saw as my destruction. I'd identified these certain parts of my life, and when I tried methamphetamine, all of that went away. So it was, and there isn't any one thing in my head that caused it any more, I don't think, than any other. And the methamphetamine allowed me to not have to worry about the consequences of my decisions.
Isn't it weird that it's very common, what you just, described, but it's weird that it's like so much of an answer to us, and I'm not sure that I've ever heard any other. I've heard people not say that about meth, but I've never heard as much people say about, like, okay, like say it's marijuana or cocaine or heroin or any of those things. Like, I've never heard it explained in such a manner so many times over and over. Like, when I found this thing, it was it. It's what I've been looking for. It was the answer to everything. Went quiet. Everything went, I could figure out how to think. I could figure out how to. It also, like, removes all other. One thing it does, we talked about it earlier, is it removes all other affairs in our life. Is what it's doing, kind of. It becomes the primary focus. So it's really easy to manage one thing.
Yeah.
Even though we fucked that up too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just kind of let everything else go.
It uncomplicates things.
It uncomplicates. Well, while criminally complicates everything.
Well, I mean, you don't see that when life is good. You know what I mean? You don't see that what you're going to have to do if you unburden yourself from a job. You just, because your dopamine is running so strong.
You don't need anything else.
Your dopamine, it's happiness. All right. It's to your brain. It only sees chemical response.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't understand the difference between dream and reality. To it, its chemical response is the same. That's why people can have nightmares and it be the most frightening thing they've ever seen. Because it's a genuine emotional response.
It's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's only because we know that it's not in our reality does it become okay.
When I crossed over, which I've always been the same type of drug addict, but there were some drugs that did scare me, like heroin. The first time I ever did heroin, I took like a tenth of heroin and I put in like 10 lines, I was genuinely like, I need to be careful,
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows what heroin is, like you should be, but most of the time, like the first time I ever took Xanax, I took like I think 8 Xanax. The first time I ever took ecstasy, I took a bunch of ecstasy. You know, like I'm kind of like, I want to experience it at this level, no other level. I don't ever want to wake up when I'm 35 and go, I didn't experience it, you know? Was kind of my motto. When I moved from, which I did a lot of meth. I mean, I like to stay up. So the first time I ever did meth, I stayed up 5 days. I didn't do that much meth. It was just that effective, you know? But when I moved into, and there were some things I had to navigate within myself. Like the first time I ever did it, somehow I ended up partying, and then the next night I ended up playing dice, and then my dad owns a tow service, so people came over, but we played dice for like days, and it hurt me. Like it physically hurt my hips and my knees because I had been sitting so long. So I was like, we're never doing that again. So I became more of like a mover. I'm not going to sit for 5 days. But once I moved into a space of like high amounts of methamphetamine, like at once, I would try to do as much as possible and then stay up as long as possible. I would not even touch it like afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that came from being caught with drugs and going to jail. So I would try to buy the most amount I could do and do the most amount I could do and then be done with it at wherever I bought it. So I wouldn't be driving around with it because I had caught too many charges with, you know, but, it literally made me, it's weird to think about, but I naturally have tics. Like I kind of have tics gone. Cigarettes would be in my pocket, never opened.
Mm-hmm.
No nervousness, no, like my natural disposition, just for days at the end, I would just like not have this anxiety that I would naturally have. And you would think like this thing would make you, but it literally like at high doses would make me like really calm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to this doctor one time because I caught a DUI and like I was trying to, my mom is codependent and she was like, well, let's take you to the doctor and get you a doctor's note so you could go back to work. So this was like her cancer primary care doctor, and she was like, I'll write him the note, but it's just one time, you know. But I still want to see you. Like, I want to like examine you and talk to you. And I was like, cool. And she was like, hey, like what drugs do you do? I'm like, I mean, I'm shooting grams of dope and methamphetamine in my arm all the time. She's like, oh, you know, have you ever like took a drug that like, because you're self-medicating, like, you know, because doctors naturally think you're self-medicating a problem. They're like, have you ever took anything that made you feel okay? And I was like, honestly, like really high amounts of methamphetamine, like make me feel okay. Like I've took tons of benzos or I've took, you know, like everything, but like this thing makes me feel normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird that it does that.
Mm-hmm.
I probably do have ADHD, you know that.
Yeah. That's absolutely what it is.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what it is, because I had the same response. And it wasn't until I had become such a social pariah, like I felt completely...
Like after the girl left?
Yeah. This is after, like I did what I probably that I felt like I needed to do. Like I knew, this was after I found Candy and Valen. I forced her to let me see him, you know. And I was trying to hold it together, you know, but it was difficult on my son. Like, I taught my son to walk. My son used to eat dinner on my lap, not hers. You know, I used to sing my son to sleep every single night. He loved Old Lang Syne, that song you sing at New Year's.
Yeah.
So there was truly, And every time I left the house, like, he hated it. You know, he was very attached to me. And when I came back into the picture, no, he was 4, and he didn't understand what was going on, you know, and I couldn't be reliable. I couldn't be who I was supposed to be. I couldn't be the representation of what I felt he deserved. And I don't know why I couldn't, why I felt like I couldn't, but by that time I had, again, I was a manipulator, you know, and I manipulated myself into believing that there was no hope for me, you know, that I had this internal failure of my personality, that I was always going to continually regress. Like I was never going to be good enough. So I'm just going to stay on the bottom. And I don't want to teach my son how to be a failure. And so I left. And that was a nail in the coffin. My dad had land here, and some 30 years ago he moved down here and bought land and started an orchard. So, you know, and I'd always stayed in touch with him. My dad has always been a cornerstone of God's grace in my world. And so, you know, I'd call him from payphones or whatever, and you know, he's like, "Son, just get the hell out of there. You know, you're not doing you or your family any good. If you can't help from a position of strength, then you are not helping." And that made sense to me. So, and there was still a little voice inside of me that, you know, wouldn't give up, wouldn't just, you know, roll over by the river and drown myself. You know, the day that well, 2 days after she left me, there was an experience there that I can only say was an interference from God. Even today, it's hard to believe it happened as I remember it. So I remember thinking, I'm just going to kill myself. I can't live with this pain. And I look up on the living room was open, an open floor plan, and the kitchen had one of those breakfast countertops, you know, and I had a very expensive set of knives, kitchen knives, Henckels. I knew they were razor sharp. Like I'd cut my fingers with them before, and they're so sharp that I didn't even know I was cut. And I remember this peace, this calmness just kind of wash over me. I wasn't crying anymore. Wasn't shaking anymore. I didn't feel fatigued anymore. Like this peace, this tranquility came over me when I decided to do that. And I've never, not once in my life, ever, I struggled to, when people even posed the question to me, have you ever thought about killing yourself? I struggled to even put myself in a position where that would be logical. because I looked at everything in terms of, does it make sense? And I was there. I was in that place. I was where there was so much anguish that I knew that I couldn't continue in life with the weight of what I had done on my shoulders. And I was totally calm. I went into the bathroom. I ran a tub of hot water. Put on the radio, played some blues music or jazz music or something. I can't remember. And I walked over to the counter and I grabbed the 12-inch kitchen knife. And I walked over to the table and I rolled a joint. And I looked around. And I remember thinking, well, you had a good run. And I put my phone on the kitchen table, and it was glass. And I walked into the bathroom, and I got in the tub, and I lit my joint, and I was okay. I was okay with what was about to happen. It wasn't a struggle. It wasn't. I knew that it would be fairly quick and painless, and it was. And whatever was going to come next, so be it. And and I remember sitting there smoking that joint, and I was about finished with it. I'd had enough, and the tub was almost full, and I'd shut the water off, and I was just looking at that knife, sitting on the edge of the tub, and then my phone started going off. And it was just on that glass table, and it was vibrating, and it was just like extra loud in this place that had no furniture, no wall coverings. It was just like, it was the loudest phone I'd ever heard, and it would not stop. I mean, it just called and called and called and called. And there was this girl that I had met in one of these trap houses, right? And she was like the chick that hasn't been off the rails long enough to where she's just, she was still a good looking girl. She was probably 10 years younger than me. She could tell she had some serious emotional trauma. Mm-hmm. They often find one of those.
Yeah.
And she said she often talked to, that angels would talk to her. So, I thought she was, well, the phone wouldn't stop. I was not going to let this ruin the last seconds on this world. And so I got out of the bathtub. And I went into the kitchen, and the phone's just like still just going off. Like she called me like 11 times straight. And I picked up the phone, and it had just stopped ringing. And it was her. I was like, what is she calling me for? Like, I didn't even know she had my number. That was strange. Because it dawned on me I'd never given her my number. And she had sent me like 4 or 5 text messages, and it was just like, John, what are you doing? whatever you're doing, John, call me, please. Like, she knew something was wrong. And I said, I'm fine, and then just hung up the phone, and I took it into the bathroom with me. I lay down, and then she started calling me back. She said, John, I'm coming over. Don't do anything. Don't. Like, she was just kept repeating over and over. Don't do it.
She knew.
I know for a fact no one from that circle knew where I lived. I know for a fact. I kept it like that was still a church and state situation for me. You know what I mean? No one knew where I lived.
Yeah, that's how I kept it.
And she was banging on my door in like 3 minutes. I don't know how to explain that. And she couldn't explain it either.
Some people are just spiritually aware.
It kept me from killing myself that day. And I'm still in contact with that woman. She found the program too. She's the only one from that area that I still speak to.
Really?
Yeah, she found me. She tracked me down, on Facebook or whatever. How she remembered my name, I don't know, man. I mean, she just wanted to check up on me and say, "Are you okay?" Like, and she stayed there for a month with me in my townhome after she left, and would not, like, she took care of me. She fed me. We didn't have any relationship outside of just like
friends.
She was just there for me. She's salt of the earth, man.
There is like a spirituality to that world that's kind of different. It's dark. It's also aware. It's a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. A lot of like, I had never had so much deja vu and signs that had happened in my life. They were just like on me, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, I don't know, like maybe, you know what? It might not be the drug. It might be you're always in like a fasted state. You're never really eating. You're always up. You're kind of like.
That's an entire possibility that I never really crossed my mind before.
I mean, think about if you did it without drugs. Think about if you went, I don't know about you, but like, think about if you went every month, 20 days, you didn't sleep. You didn't eat. Like how aware you would be.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, in America, like, think about how much they fasted in biblical days versus now, and how much they didn't eat. Like you kind of get in that space, I think, spiritually. The drugs, like the drugs are there, but there is like a space where you're just like, you're not high anymore. You're just up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a possibility of spiritual stuff. I think you're also putting yourself in a susceptible state to spiritual darkness too. Anything that lowers your energy puts you in a susceptible state to bad energy coming into you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's
what you getting sober, like coming out of jail and meeting Danny? Like, how did all that happen?
Danny Hugs. God bless his heart, man. He's the real deal. You know, he goes into... by that time, I knew that I had to... I'd got myself a good indictment. The state of Tennessee was wanting to put me away for about 20 years. And they wanted me bad because they knew I had been, they knew I had been running hard in their town for a long time, and they couldn't get their fingers on me. I followed some cardinal rules that I learned in Chicago and other big cities that I'd lived in, and it made it very difficult on them. And I know that they had a dry snitch file on me that was, thick. They knew who I ran with. They knew who I sold to. They just couldn't figure out how I was doing it. And I know for a fact that when they finally got the indictment on me, because one of the guys that I normally don't purchase from, he was the one that had actually turned on me. And I didn't see that coming. I didn't see my plug turning on me.
That's a good point.
And they had a special agent in the vehicle. But they knew by that time the guys that I was getting from, they had federal indictments on them. So they had messed up in the chain bad. And then they found out that I was part of that chain, and they were like, "Ooh, man, we got Johnny, all right." And they knew me as Briefcase. And I still managed to screw up their buy. I still managed to, because I didn't know what my plug didn't understand was that I didn't do any hand-to-hand transactions. And so they were in a parking lot somewhere, and I was walking by with a bag of chips in my hand, and I saw it was him, and I just crumpled up the bag of chips and threw it in the back of his pickup truck, and just kept walking. Now, the quality and the quantity of the product was still sufficient to, look incredibly bad. And they had it on video, you know what I mean? But there was a lot of, the evidence was suspect. But they arrested me. They put me in jail in the Murray County facility. And when I got there, the DA had read my DTF file, or DFT file, Drug Task Force, DTF, and knew that it was all inadmissible evidence. It was just like testimony or whatever, but the chain of documentation there he knew I was connected with that much bigger ring, that I was what he considered to be lucky. And so I spent enough time in there fighting my case, fighting my charge, to where I got bored, you know what I mean? And I knew that I was reading profusely, I was writing, I was drawing, like the enrichment of my my character, I guess, had begun to. I could see that there was life outside of methamphetamine. Like there was someone inside of me that had maybe never been discovered, maybe never had been given the time to blossom, you know, for lack of a better term. And it got me opening my eyes, and I figured, I was like, well, I'll start taking some classes. You know what I mean? I'm going to be here for another 8 months or 20 years
20
or
years.
something. So might as well just see where this takes me. And in Murray County, there's a lot of things like, I want to give a shout out to the sheriff down there. That guy really genuinely gives a damn
Wants
about
to
his
help.
prisoners.
Yeah.
Funny story about him. His father and his uncle both died in the Murray County fire when they were prisoners at the Murray County facility when the jail caught fire. And they both died. And he ends up becoming the sheriff of that county. So maybe that has something to do with how he handles his business. But it's not like he coddles people. It's not like he,
He just believes in programs that help.
Yeah, like he puts a road in front of you that if you want to take that road, he's going to try to enable that. And he's going to, do everything he can to give you an opportunity to become someone different. And so they have like therapy classes, like group therapy, trauma therapy, art classes,
Victim
impacts, fatherhood classes. He even has TCAT.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a TCAT program down there, like a good one, like equipment and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
New computers. He does. Like I said, he does what he can. And so in the process of that, I twice a week, there was NA class, an NA course, and Danny Huggs, who was the assistant chaplain at the time, he was the one that stepped in to do that, and he does it more. It's not like a real meeting in a sense, because you got a bunch of guys that have no idea what a meeting is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're hard pressed to share, They're not, nobody's going to show any weakness in front of another guy that they're locked up with,
It's more like an interactive, educational.
Right. Yeah. And what he did a lot was, he had big screen on the wall, and he would pipe in a virtual meeting from somewhere in the world.
Okay.
And the thing that really caught my attention about that, and I became a devoted twice a week, man. I was at NA. I had my dad send him some money for a book, the thing that I loved about the virtual meetings was people all over the world struggle with the same things that I did. And I kept hearing over and over and over stories about people's childhoods that different walks of life, different places, whether you were in Tel Aviv or Dublin, Ireland, or, Los Angeles, California, the things that led us to alcohol and narcotics.
They call this concept the voice of the heart.
Yeah.
It's an AA term, but pretty much we all speak the same language, came from the same place, even though we're different backgrounds and different. It's the voice of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. this concept
that term fear
kept
reoccurring. You know, that, oh, well, I was young and you know, I was afraid of failure or afraid of not being accepted, or, you know, and this is what I struggle with. This is what I struggled with that led me to alcohol. And it was always alcohol. Alcohol is the gateway. That is the gateway.
Yeah, me too.
And you know, so that's it had my ear, man. And Danny Huggs does such a great job of
mentorship.
Yeah. There is never a question. I don't care how hardened or jaded you are. I never saw a single dude come into his room and walk away and go, that guy's a joke. You know, never.
Yeah.
Never. Like, I mean, there was some hard thugging dudes that went into that room in the time that I was there that I knew from the street, and I knew that they were, I mean, I was be surprised if they were ever born with an emotion, because these guys were just so
hard-nosed,
brutal.
Yeah.
And come out like soft, man. Just like, damn, man, didn't know dude could be like that, man. It's like, you know, it's like, damn. I mean, I'm telling you, Danny Huggs, and dude's 5'0" nothing. You know what I mean? He comes from, I know where his family comes from in Chicago. His two older brothers are ranking vice lords that are serving like 20 to life. And, you know, there's never, like, when he talks about where he comes from, you feel it. You know that he ain't BSing you. You know, he showed me pictures of him and his brothers one time, like from the 70s, you know, straight up vatos from sitting on a street corner even, you know what I mean? And he made it clear to me that no matter how far you get on the other side of things, that there's somebody inside of you that is not the person you are today. That is not that person. And that the person inside of you has the capability to be happier on a level that can't be measured. And I never doubted that because of him. And I owe that to him.
It's weird, the people we meet that'll change our lives. It's usually the people we go. And I came from, if he can do it, I can do it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he just has a way to be able to, and I've seen a lot of, my sponsor, Bob Johnson, is, he's a hell of a guy. I mean, and
yeah,
I appreciate when we get together, man, I walk away feeling like I've become just a little bit better of a man. And I understand myself a little bit better. He's exactly what I need. But I don't think Bob could do what Danny Huggs does.
I don't think everybody in life has an anointment by God, and usually the only thing that could depress a man more is know their anointment and walk away from it. But everybody has special gifts, you know? It doesn't make one less or more or better, you know? It just...
No, I understand that. And I don't know that Danny could
Do what Bob does.
do what Bob does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know that it would translate.
Sure.
But man, I mean, it was Danny Huggs that gave me the,
Hope.
it was more than that. He gave me the faith. He gave me the faith to get on my knees and take responsibility for my life.
Hmm.
And that's all I promised God when I did. When I accepted him as the guiding light in my existence, as the foundation to everything I will try to become, that's all I promised him, was that I wasn't going to make any, like, God, get me out of this, none of that crossed my lips. I said, I take responsibility for who I've become, because they were my choices. And if I asked him, if this is the road that I'm destined to walk, if I go into court in 2 days and I go to prison, so be it. I will try to reach out to and do what I can of your work there on myself and anyone around me. And I said, but I'm not trying to make any promises, I don't want to crocodile tears here. I know you don't want that. And I said, I'm just finally I'm not making any more excuses. I'm not the victim. I am the one that has taken these steps. And now I take these steps. I take responsibility for this. And I just said, thank you. And 2 days later, we went into court, and the DA had no deal for me. I mean, my attorney came up and was like, and I had a good attorney. Like, as far as public defenders go, Colby Block, she is, like, if she's got a leg to stand on, you know what I mean? She's that, like, barking dog, man. She will chew the hell out of your ankle. And she says, listen, I found something, a precedent that had been set in a court case that was like 30 years ago. And she said, but if we try this and try to make the DA look stupid and it doesn't work, she said, you are fucked. Pardon my language.
Yeah.
But that's what she said. And that was a direct quote. But at that moment in time, man, I had so much, because I had woken up that morning just like feeling I had finally arrived.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't one of those jailhouse preachers or anything like that. You know what I mean? I did a prayer circle, but I I wasn't, and I read my Bible, but, there's a line in, I think it's the book of Mark. It says you should worship your God with a whisper. And I took that to heart. Like I mean what I say to my God. I mean it. And I don't need someone else's perception of my worship to validate my worship in any way. And I looked at her and I said, you know, God's put you in my life for a reason. I said, I have all the faith in the world in you. You're a good attorney. And no matter what decision you decide to make, I thank you for your services. And she just kind of looked at me like I was trying to read the words going through her mind like, you son of a bitch. What? That was not an answer.
Yeah, that's not an answer.
You know what I mean? And she says, well, put your big girl panties on. And we got up, or she went over there and did her thing, you know, for a little bit, and then we got up and it was my turn to do my case. And I'd been in front of this judge before, and he was a fair judge. I'll give him that, Judge Parker. But the DA was
mad.
He was mad.
Yeah.
He was playing no games. And he was giving out, you know, wide receiver sentences to everybody, you know. So we went there, and I don't really remember. Like I just remember like wah 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 wah, and I was trying to just be grateful. I was trying to already, like Danny had put that in me, like be grateful. Be grateful. If you can find gratuity, if you can be humble enough to find something to be grateful for in the driest or the worst situations, then when the rains come, then, you know, your life is going to work out. That you won't miss the best things in life. And so I was just trying to, I remember sitting in the chair going, oh, wow, this is a nice, comfortable chair. You know, because you sit on them plastic things or steel things in the pod. And I was like, wow, this is really a nice, comfortable chair. It's just warm, you know. And they were doing their thing. And about the time that I started paying attention was when Colby, she said, Your Honor, the defense rests. So I missed the entire defense, right? And she turned and looked back at me. And as she's walking towards me, I look over at the district attorney, and he's just eyeballing her all the way across the courtroom, because so apparently she had done something. And he stood up. He said, Your Honor, in light of
new evidence,
the new submission,
yeah,
the people would like to withdraw the charges. And my attorney's mouth just you know what I mean? And I was looking around like somebody was going to fill me in on what just happened. And so apparently what had happened was she had gotten an allowance of submission that one of the pieces of evidence had not been on the evidentiary, right? So it had de facto been unadmissible. And then there was another spin on it. But in the way that they had picked me up. Now, they did end up pinching me with another charge. They re-indicted me. But it was much less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Much less. I walked away from that with some probation. They were very angry. the whole, like, and I've driven through Colombia now in the past 6 months or so, and the DTF officers still remember me. I can promise you that, because as soon as I got into town, it was like, I mean, I had a police tail on me the entire time I was in town. And I don't mean unmarked. I mean a squad car that parked across the street. When I left, they started up and followed me. Like, they wanted to make it very clear that I was not welcome. And that's all right, because I did not intend to stay long. You know, it's cool, man. I have, I will darken their doorstep no more. I have no desire. I can't even believe the way I lived for the last 3 years, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, I was putting like an 8-ball or better in my arm every day, and that's not including what I smoked. And I mean, I was running around with guns. I had a perfectly good place to live, but I had a $3,000 deer stand underneath an overpass. That's the only place I felt safe. You know, I had cameras everywhere, you know, battery packs with a big screen TV with all the camera views, you know what I mean? And that's
not okay, John.
That's not okay, man. That is not okay. That was like, it would take me 30 minutes of driving in circles and through these woods before I felt like I was safe.
Yeah.
You know, and then I would park my car
and then walk.
And then I would get in a canoe and then take this little stream, part of the Richland Creek tributary, down to the overpass that was not reachable by car. And, you know, a couple of fishermen would come down there every now and then, but you had, it was a tough road to get in there, you know. And that was what I did when I came home. You know, that's, and I lived in a deer stand with, you know, a little space heater, a little tiny fridge, a big screen TV with all my cameras on it, and just sitting there getting high. I can't. How is that okay in anyone's mind?
It's not.
Well, it was okay for me, and the fact remains is that I have a cabin. I mean, it's not much, but it's mine. Yeah, I have a little place with an art studio and a, you know, it's cool, and I've got a wood shop and fun stuff. And no, I was living underneath an overpass with a bag of meth and a big screen TV.
We're at the kind of at the end. I wanted to thank you for coming on today, and I want to say that I'm like super proud of you. Like in the time that I've known you, you've done like just incredible, just being yourself and being with God, and it shows all over you. You know.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I enjoy being in your presence. At the end of every episode, we'll end it at the, like, as soon as you end the sentence, it ends. But the question is, what's your deepest fear? And you say the question and then answer it. So my deepest fear is, but you have time to think about it and then answer. And when you answer, try to talk this way.
My deepest fear. My deepest fear is that I wake up and all of this was a dream. That I'm still underneath that overpass.